were we starting to get nervous, not just about Marvel movies, but comic book movies in general. Had they run their course? So I am thrilled to be able to tell you that this movie is phenomenal. It's back on track. Marvel and superhero movies. There's still gas left in the tank. But I think it does in large part depend on who's driving. More on that in a moment. But first I want to point out that this is a spoiler-free review. And I'm pleased to also say that the trailers have been intentionally misleading. So if you can manage to avoid spoilers, good luck. There are fan screenings tonight. But if you can manage to avoid spoilers, you're in for a lot of great surprises when you see this movie. So I saw another member of the press. All the press screenings were last night. They had a couple of press in Europe see it about a week ago. But we pretty much all saw it last night. And I saw someone say that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is the best MCU movie since Avengers Endgame. And I 100% agree with that. That is definitely true. It has action, heart, gravitas, laughs, tons of story, a great villain, and consequences. Oh, how nice and how refreshing that is to have back in the MCU. And I think that's all attributable not only to a stellar cast at the top of their game, but because of how much James Gunn is evolving as a filmmaker. I know some fans will claim that he's always been great. That's what some of you said when I tweeted this last night. But watching Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, I think it's undeniable that he has become much more confident working in the big blockbuster space, underscoring the old adage, experience matters. His VFX work here is top-notch. So good. And I would say at this point, nobody in Hollywood, maybe ever, can move the camera like Gunn can. And that's high praise. That's incredible. That's an incredible statement, but I really honestly believe that it's true. His camera movement and placement are thrilling and makes Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 really exciting to watch. He's also getting better and better as a screenwriter. His humor is sharper. He's able to infuse even more heart into it. And he's also gotten quite good at the gravitas. Gunn has something to say, and it's both intelligent and interesting. It would seem Gunn has become a master of the human condition, both the good and the bad. And Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, while I wouldn't really say it's a sad film, that's again been a little bit misleading, I would say at multiple points it is extremely dark and disturbing. Oh, get ready for DC, right? And parents, I would tell you should at least prepare your kids for these sequences. It is a very dark film, very dark at certain points. I still do believe it's PG-13, but it's right up to the line, right up to the line. Some kids will be thrilled, think it's awesome, but there's like some people take very little kids to these movies, and be prepared for the emotional reaction they're going to have watching these sequences. In his Suicide Squad, a movie that I had very uneven thoughts about, as you know, the Rick Flag versus Peacemaker sequence, in my opinion, was the real standout, visually and thematically. And in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Gunn has multiple sequences operating at that level. There are only 3 problems keeping Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 from being perfect, and I want to touch on those before getting back to just how amazing this movie is. So problem number 1, Gunn has got to cut back or maybe fully stop with the friends and family cameos. It was fine when it was just his brother Sean Gunn. That was fine. I'd actually even come to really appreciate Sean Gunn as an actor. But now with Gunn still in it, and now Sean Gunn, and now James Gunn's wife Jennifer Holland consistently added to the mix, and multiple friends, it's just become overwhelming. The film has a drab opening long take that kind of got me worried. I was like, Guardians of the Galaxy is supposed to be fun. But right after that, the movie instantly got into the groove, and I was bopping my head. I was like, wow, this movie's amazing. I was feeling the Marvel magic. But then when they got to this sequence, it was like a record scratch with just a tidal wave of friends and family cameos. It felt like I walked out of the movie and into James Gunn's house. The friends and family cameos even had a kind of wink-wink quality to their work, aware that they were doing cameos for their friend Gunn or family member. I know that some other directors do this, like say Wes Anderson, but you have to also acknowledge that makes Wes Anderson niche, and that even a lot of Wes Anderson fans have gotten tired of his troupe of actors. It keeps it from being able to be fully immersed in the story. And it's also much more interesting, even with Wes Anderson's movies as well, to see fresh talent play in the sandbox. And there's some great new talent on display here in Guardians of the Galaxy that, is more legit. There's even one cameo that I think is actually pretty good. But knowing that it's James Gunn's friend and that this person has been dying and lobbying to get into a Marvel movie for over a decade, it just breaks the spell of the movie. You're like, good for you. You finally, managed to talk your way into one. And it just takes you out of the movie. At least it took me out of the movie. Luckily, all the friends and family cameos stop after this sequence, so I was able to get back into the groove. And then problem number 2, remember there's just 3. Problem number 2, sophomoric humor. James Gunn is very funny. Funny enough that he doesn't have to include sophomoric, very thinly veiled, pretty inappropriate jokes that do not belong in an MCU movie. I hope it goes right over your kids' heads, and with the teenagers, it's gonna be awkward. And he tripled down on the joke. Like, he just wasn't okay to kind of slip it in there. It's like, really, it was like, hey, I'm making a really inappropriate joke. And you were like, I got it. And I didn't think it belonged in this movie. Problem number 3, Gunn he's getting better at it, for sure. And I'm going to talk about some great female characters in just a moment. But he still has some problems, some lingering problems, let's say, with his attitude of women, towards women and how he treats his female characters. And he still also, I think, really has a problem with mothers. That's like a personal thing to unpack. And, I'm tired of seeing it unpacked in his work. Gamora, certainly tougher here, but still stuck in girlfriend mode. And I found the interactions between Kraglin and the female space dog Cosmo really unsettling. It's a weird mix of an abusive relationship and psychological animal cruelty. It just did not sit right with me, and I would have removed it from the film. I'm surprised, in fact, that it made it to the final cut. I was like, that's just abuse. That's just abuse. And it seemed like they were excusing it and didn't think it was as bad as it was, because I thought it was horrific treatment of Cosmo. All right. Now let's get back to talking about how great this movie is. Oh my goodness. And again, I'd like to point out that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 does have some fantastic female characters, and let's discuss. Starting with her development in Avengers Endgame, Nebula has become one of the best MCU female characters. And Gunn, along with Karen Gillan, take the ball from Avengers Endgame and really run with it, turning Nebula into this robotic, broken doll. Literally, I loved that addition to her. I was like, that is a brilliant idea and so well done. She's just incredible. She's fascinating. She's everything. She's everything. I love Nebula so much. And I also have come to really adore Pom Clementieff's Mantis. So glad she's in Mission Impossible, the latest Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning. See, that's the ideal. You discover great actors and they go on to be in other people's work instead of every single thing that you make. And as good as these people are, I don't want to see them go to DC. I think that breaks the spell. But I think everyone should hire Karen Gillan, and I think everyone should hire Pom Clementief. She really came into her own as Mantis with the holiday special, and she's even better here. Even better. A really great dynamic character, and it's great to see Gunn build on her relationship with Peter now that he's revealed that they're brother and sister in the holiday special. Her scenes with Peter and Drax, of course, are all gems. And both Nebula and Mantis can really handle themselves in an action sequence. They're a delight to watch all the time, constantly. As for Gamora in the action sequences, or just in the movie overall, Zoe Saldana is definitely given more to work with than she has not only in these movies, but I think in pretty much any of the roles she's ever done. I feel Zoe Saldana has been in so many great movies and so many iconic films, but yet I feel like she's always given the short end of the stick, unfortunately. But here, her role still doesn't have the emotional complexity of Nebula and Mantis. She's more just really angry. I don't even think she knows why she's angry. It's certainly not explored. The character is still seen through Peter's eyes, instead of being allowed to explore her journey herself, and with us being to go we don't go with Gamora. We're always just looking at her through the filter of, I think, Peter, which is a shame because I think Gamora is going on a really interesting journey. She slashes more stuff with her sword for sure, but Nebula and Mantis actually get more focus in the action sequences. Now for the guys. Chris Pratt and Dave Bautista are in top form as Star-Lord and Drax, the best that they have ever been in the roles. Pratt in particular reminds us once again why he became a star in the first place. He is just excellent here. Absolutely excellent. Super, super leading man material. Vin Diesel's Groot, well, again, I said no spoilers, so let's just say I finally understand his new thicker build, and it is awesome. Then we've got some newbies that have joined the party. I actually really love Will Poulter's Adam Warlock. I loved him from the get-go, and his action sequences are thrillingly done. In fact, it feels like James Gunn is getting in some practice for his Superman movie with the Adam Warlock sequences, and it's very, very promising. You're like, oh, this looks good. Poulter is funny as well, though, and he definitely fits with Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy vibe. And then there's Chikuti Iwuji from Gunn's Peacemaker, and he's a Shakespearean-trained actor. He's been working long before he met Gunn, and I'm so glad that he was cast here. And it's a fully fleshed-out role. It's great. He's an incredible villain as the High Evolutionary. The role is extremely well-written, with Iwuji really going to town with it. It's just a great pairing of a director, writer, and actor. I mean, I was impressed. And it really goes to show what a difference the writing makes, and the directing. Kang and Quantumania, who did not have a good writer or director, separate people for Quantumania. But, Kang and Quantumania, despite Jonathan Majors' best efforts, and Jonathan Majors did the best he could with that role, the character spends so much time just vaguely monologuing. But Iwuji gets more to the point. His character gets more to the point, making him accomplish more and be far more evil and deadly. There's also an intense emotional component to his character. Oh, wait till you see this. Wow. Which, again, was a really great idea on paper, and it's even better when perfectly realized by Iwuji. I was impressed with this stuff. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Wowie, wow, wow. And then, of course, I guess if the other cameos, I don't even know if I'd classify Iwuji as a friends and family cameo because he's only just been in Peacemaker. That I would qualify of working again with a great actor. And you've seen all directors will occasionally rework with the same actor. But they don't do like 20 of them or 10 of them. But I think it's also because it wasn't just a cameo. It was a fully realized role, and Iwuji just knocked it out of the park. And then, of course, there's Rocket Raccoon, the other half of that equation. And really, take a bow. James Gunn, Bradley Cooper, and to be fair, Sean Gunn, who once again does the motion capture for Rocket Raccoon and the voice, it turns out, of young Rocket. I was wondering who was doing that voice. It's very well done. This is a really moving story, very dark and disturbing. We're talking Sid from Toy Story, which I gotta tell ya, is even more disturbing in live action, meets Bong Joon-ho's Okja. Really, as I said, there's some interesting stuff being said here. And it turns out that, yes, it's Linda Cardellini who voices Lila, and all I can say, because again, non-spoiler review, but she is also integral to those sequences being as successful as they are. She does a fabulous job, very well cast. As it has been from the beginning, Guardians of the Galaxy is about the family you make, a family of misfits. But I feel that message has never been as potent as it is here. I've always kind of felt it was at the outer edges of the movies before this, but here I felt this was very much also what this movie was about. And I thought it was beautiful, and it was illustrated in multiple different ways. And that's great when a movie's able to really, in layers, hammer home a point. That's really good writing and directing. Again, I say James Gunn has become a master of the human condition, good and bad. And I think the best way to describe this movie is that it's very human and really quite beautiful. I'm really impressed. When a studio makes a point of showing you a movie in a particular format, that means it's important. Usually, a lot of studios will just show it to you on a screen. But here, Disney, for all of its press screenings and tonight's fan screenings, the fan screenings that are tonight, Disney is making a point of putting it on IMAX. And I have to say, it was great. It was amazing to see a movie set in space on such a large screen, especially when you're in a proper IMAX theater, and that really puts you like at eye level. Oh, it was great. With James Gunn's fantastic camera work, again, and points on their latest ship, the Bowie, I felt like I was getting ready to launch on the new ride, the new Guardians of the Galaxy ride at Epcot. You know, the camera would just swivel into the cockpit, and here we would go, and I was like, what a ride. If you can see it on IMAX, I strongly recommend it. But if not, do try to find a premium screen. I just think, James Gunn really made the effort. I think, if you can, you should as well. There are 2 end credit scenes, but refreshingly, this is a movie that does not rely on the end credit scenes to make a splash. I mean, they're fine. They certainly will give us something to talk about, which we will do in a separate video once the movie releases. But the real meat is the movie, and that's the way that it should be. They're just the movie should be the main course with the end credit scenes, just a cute little amuse-bouche at the end. And that's exactly the way it is here, and it was great. As I tweeted, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 has that MCU magic. And I would definitely say top 10 MCU and maybe even top 5. I have to think about it a little more and see it again. I have my tickets to see it again, and I'm very excited. And it also, by the way, makes me feel better about the future of DC. I feel better about the future of DC because James Gunn, he just has a few little problems left, but he really is evolving into a fantastic filmmaker. And, director, writer, and maybe producer. We'll see about the producer aspect. But I think certainly I feel really good about Superman. I just hope something doesn't mess it up at the last minute. But I feel good. All right, so that's my non-spoiler review of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And be sure to check back for full coverage this coming week when it hits theaters. We're going to have a whole lot of fun. So share your thoughts down below, subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.